Grace and peace to you, and thank you for watching this continuing series on the Catechism. We are on the third question in the first section, the human nature section of the Catechism. The question is, why then do we live apart from God and out of harmony with creation? The question follows the one that mentions being created in the image of God. And this section is careful to declare first and foremost, as Genesis does, that human beings are made in the image and likeness of God, and to ground our identity and nature in that divine intent and design for us. And of course, then fairly quickly in the story, Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve are tempted and they violate God's law and boundary for them and get into all manner of distress and trouble and pain and sorrow because of that. But that preparation and event of the fall is not a complete shattering and or undoing of what is described in chapter 1. It is, as this question describes it, a living apart and out of harmony. So it may be helpful just to say for a minute what Adam and Eve are described as having done in Genesis chapter 3. They were tempted to become something more than human. That the tempter questioned the adequacy of their human limits and boundaries. The tempter appealed to them in a way that implied they could possess more than they had, that they were being mistreated perhaps by God, or that they could aspire to a transcendent life of independence and sovereignty and agency that the tempter told them they did not have. And of course, we know that we don't have this, just as Adam and Eve knew that they did not have this, which is part of the nature of the temptation then, is to, in some way, escape, avoid, bypass, transcend our human creatureliness. And we are tempted to do this because we encounter a boundary, a limit that doesn't feel good. We don't like it. And we are conscious of the ways in which we have freedom and creativity and the capacity to love and reason and to live in harmony, as the previous question has noted for us. But we do not have unlimited and ultimate freedom and capacity to do those things. Only God has that. And we are creatures made by God, brought into existence by God's will and intent and design and desire, decision, and our lives, when they end, go back into the source of creation as our bodies decay and die in the earth. And knowing our mortality, knowing our creatureliness, in temptation impinges on what we naturally experience as a boundary, a limit, a container. Now, if you're a parent or been around children as they become close to 2 years old, 3, 4, they inherently, without having to know any theology or understand what is going on within them, experience boundaries and limits as a pain, and they don't like them. You tell the child to do something or not do something, and immediately you are creating for the child this conflict between what you've said, what the child wants to do. And of course, any good parent will realize that they can't allow the child to do whatever the child wants. It would hurt the child. The child doesn't know that ultimate freedom in their minds would bring about great pain and suffering. They just want what they want. And they want it right when they want it. And so the parent becomes adversary to their desire by placing a limit or a boundary on them. Well, of course, the parent loves the child and has to place limits and boundaries on them for their own good and safety, so that they can begin to think and grow and relate and make decisions in a way that will help them to live and thrive and to develop into appropriate relationships. So all of us as creatures, as finite creatures who are straining against our own boundaries and limits, encounter the temptation of the frustration of those limits and of some allure in someone, something, some experience or feeling that appeals to us as the escape, as the answer, as a way to grasp in some way some power and control for ourselves that we know we do not have and desperately want. So the question in the way that it's worded is very important. We live apart from God. And that apart does not mean in utter alienation and rejection. It means at some distance. And the distance is part of our decision. And our decision is to resist being creatures, which would mean that we would live in harmony with God, and to take from God or upon ourselves power and agency that it doesn't belong to us. And whenever we do something that is not human, then we are putting ourselves apart from God, because this relationship is then not creator to creature, it is creator to rebellious and delusional creature who doesn't want to be a creature. And so what the line between Genesis 1 and 3 is telling us is that we are most fulfilled, most ourselves, most in harmony and love and peace when we are most human. And to be most human is to be a creature, and to be a creature is to know our limits and boundaries and not to rebel against them, but to live in them. Even when it is, especially when it is painful, causes suffering, that it thwarts our will and our desire. And to all of that, God says, yes, of course, because you're a creature. So to be a creature is not a problem that we have to fix. It is the nature that we accept and welcome and live in humbly, because it is the source of harmony. Anything less than human or more than human becomes out of sync, out of harmony with our creation. And we will get into all manner of trouble and pain for ourselves when we choose to make those wrong choices and to bring about into our own lives a needless amount of self-inflicted harm. And then out of harmony with creation. And the answer is, from the beginning, human beings have misused their freedom, made wrong choices. Freedom is ours, And God entrusts it to us to use according to our own choice as free creatures. We have to take that responsibility very seriously. And so it's a good reflection question for decision making. How am I using my freedom to enhance harmony or to distort and move apart from God and from one another? And reflecting on that will get beyond the surface level, which says, what do I want and what feels good and what solves a problem, to a more nuanced sense of how my freedom is a reflection of an enhancement of my humanity. And in so doing, then, I become aware of the gift of my creaturely humanity and can live in that in harmony with God. Thank you for watching this video. God bless you.